Okay, so this rumor I would take with a huge grain of salt. I don't know how to feel about this one. Frankly, it seems rather unbelievable to me. It seems too good to be true, but there is some reason as to why this rumor has gained some traction. It has to do with the information conveyed in relation to some of the information we learned more recently from more reliable leakers and the timing of the post in question that kind of began spreading the rumor. So first up, here's a tweet from Jack of All Controllers, which is a news outlet of sorts. Have not really heard about this one. They claim to have certain sources corroborating certain information. I cannot speak to how reliable this outlet is, but this Twitter user said, update, Sony Interactive Entertainment plans on acquiring the Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania IPs from Konami. In addition, Hideo Kojima will be involved in both Metal Gear and Silent Hills if they get the rights. Yup, that's one hell of a bombshell, right? If it were to be true. But again, I would caution you from fully believing this. But let's take a look at where this information comes from. So here's the article in question from website Jack of All Controllers. Now, the initial article was actually about the rumor that a Silent Hill series reboot and a Silent Hills Kojima-produced game are both in the works simultaneously, and this was something that was initially reported by Rely on Horror, and this individual just basically said, yeah, I have some sources, and they too corroborated that information. But then this article was updated after this 4chan post was noticed by a number of people. Now, I know what you're saying, 4chan, come on, really? Why are we talking about a 4chan post? Now, there are a couple of 4chan posts that have turned out to be true, but they're, really hard to find those ones that are accurate. As for why this one's being looked at, well, first of all, let's read what it says here. Hello, I'm an employee from Konami. Sorry for my bad English. I heard for a little moment that Sony wants to buy franchises such as Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania. They want to remake Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, just ideologically after the fifth part is suitable. Kojima is involved, PS5 exclusive. Silent Hill X Keiichiro Toyama X Masahiro Ito, linking to a Twitter post where he hinted at possibly working on Silent Hill. Soft reboot, PS5 exclusive, maybe Ikumi Nakamura involved. She's with Sony Interactive Entertainment now. Castlevania, full reboot, Shutaro Ida X Koji Igarashi X Sony Japan project. Very Bloodborne style, I think, more like as Lords of Shadow, not 2D, PS5 exclusive. Alright, so you look at that information and you think, alright, anyone can just claim that. But worth noting is the date on this. It's January 13th, 2020. That's days before this January 21st post, where Twitter user Aesthetic Gamer, who has been known to be reliable, who has provided accurate leaks in regards to games like Resident Evil, posted the following tweet talking about rumblings that he heard 2 Silent Hill games are being worked on, one a soft reboot of the series, and the other kind of more story-driven, more linear, more Telltale style, but he didn't have much information about that title back then. And then more recently, in an article published on March 12th, 2020, we heard from Rely on Horror that Sony and PlayStation are backing Silent Hill series reboot and Silent Hills revival. More specifically stating, quote, our first source, who we have come to trust well, indicates that Keiichiro Toyama, director and writer of the original 1999 Silent Hill, and Akira Yamaoka, composer for the majority of the franchise, are also returning alongside Masahiro Ito. So Keiichiro Toyama and Masahiro Ito, Rely on Horror claims, are involved in this soft reboot for the series. And if you look at this 4chan post from back in January 13th, this individual also cites a Silent Hill PS5 exclusive reboot with Keiichiro Toyama and Masahiro Ito. It all kind of lines up pretty well, doesn't it? This article also claims that Sony is working to patch up the relationship between Kojima Productions and Konami in order to resurrect Silent Hills due to the amount of buzz and continued demand for it 5 years after its cancellation. So this whole idea that Sony is really pursuing the Silent Hill IP and trying to mend things between Kojima and Konami is kind of represented in this post, where he talks about Sony wanting to buy franchises like Metal Gear and wanting Kojima involved, and further hinting at the validity of both the Silent Hills revival and the Silent Hill series reboot are things like Kojima talking about how he wants to go back to horror and that he's like watching certain movies to make the scariest horror game. This was from November 2019. Then here's an article from Eurogamer talking about how anonymous sources told the news outlet that over the last year or two, the ice has thawed between Kojima and Konami, suggesting that a potential partnership for an IP like Silent Hill isn't impossible. There's this tweet from the official Kojima Productions page, which looks innocent at first. It reads, "Sorry to be silent, everyone." And then there's an image here. A lot of people noted how, interestingly, the word silent is used, and the pencil here has the pyramid word etched on it, pyramid suggesting Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. It is an iconic enemy of that franchise. And then beyond that, we have Masahiro Ito himself on the same day saying Pyramid Head rest in peace, after he said back in 2017 that if he were to make a new Silent game, it would be in a scenario in which Pyramid Head can be killed. And he says right here, RIP Pyramid Head, as if saying, I've killed Pyramid Head. We're working on a new Silent Hill game. That seems to be the insinuation here. So the stars just sort of seem to be aligning surrounding all of these rumors surrounding Silent Hill and Silent Hills. And then right here, Norman Reedus talks about, working on something else with Hideo Kojima beyond Death Stranding.
So we did Death Stranding, which was a huge hit, and we're in talks to do other stuff.
Which could very well be a Silent Hills revival where Norman Reedus would reprise the role that he lost after the cancellation of Silent Hills. And then beyond that, we've got more recent tweets from Aesthetic Gamer, who again has proven to be a reliable source of leaks for franchises like Resident Evil, who has had a pretty good track record. He also said that he's heard rumblings about this Silent Hill reboot involving Toyama, Akira, and Ito, which matches up with what this 4chan post said back in January 13th. And then Aesthetic Gamer also talked about the rumor surrounding Kojima possibly helming a Silent Hill game, with Sony kind of backing all of that. Aesthetic Gamer said, very recently I began to hear more and got something far more concrete, and also talked with someone who was able to provide receipts and had some compelling evidence. There's a few things that also may or may not confirm sooner than later if this is all true or bull, as I also got some mention towards something Death Stranding in the works that should be revealed this year, and that Kojima and Junji Ito are working on a manga together that'll be revealed soon from the Kojima source. Anyway, apparently, if this is all true, Sony worked something out with Konami, and the rights to the two titles were given to Sony. That sounds unbelievable because most often they don't fund outside properties they don't own. Technically, they have before, such as Spider-Man, but it's still rare and sounded unlikely to me. I also can confirm right now Sony didn't buy the IP, because something else I know is Konami is currently shopping around for other Silent Hill media stuff. I even heard for the Kojima game, which isn't a thing yet but is in the talks, that Sony and Konami are talking about splitting the bill to help fund the game for the record, which does directly imply that Sony doesn't own the IP, but apparently there's something involved for all parties to make this potentially happen. I'm sure exclusivity is a part of it, but I'm not clear on the full details, just to lay that out openly. Again, the Kojima thing is in the talks. It's not in development yet, so I want to talk less about that, as it's still an ambiguous thing. And these details were also echoed by Rely on Horror in this article from March 12th. So it just seems like all the rumors are saying exactly the same thing. It is interesting to hear all of this now, and all of that be in conjunction with what this 4chan post says. So if this stuff matches up, the thing that people are wondering is who's to say that, it isn't true that Sony was considering buying franchises like Metal Gear and Castlevania on top of Silent Hill. The thing that I find difficult to believe about this rumor is this notion that Konami would sell franchises like Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania. I don't know why they would do that. They're not necessarily financially strapped, given that them dialing things down on the AAA video games front and focusing on mobile and pachinkos, that's actually bolstered their business. So they're doing fine financially, and they can use franchises like Metal Gear and Silent Hill and Castlevania to promote games like mobile titles and pachinkos, as we have seen, much to our dismay. And with franchises like Castlevania, that's been licensed out for things like the new Netflix series that has 3 seasons now. So that's the main thing that's keeping me from believing what's said here in this 4chan post. it just doesn't make sense for them to sell the franchises. But, I mean, there's no denying that the information here about Silent Hill, the soft reboot that's PS5 exclusive involving Keiichiro Toyama and Masahiro Ito, that's something that more reliable leakers have heard as well, and something that multiple outlets are expressing now. And, we're hearing rumblings even from Eurogamer that Kojima and Konami are mending old wounds. What I would find more believable is if we heard rumblings that Konami is planning to license out not just Silent Hill, but also Castlevania and Metal Gear to Sony for them to do whatever they want with it. And, Konami would get, a portion of the profits or whatever. And meanwhile, Sony can leverage those franchises to sell, PlayStation 5s and release these incredible exclusives. And Kojima returning to franchises like Metal Gear and Silent Hill, that would make headline and bolster confidence in the next entries of titles from these franchises that Konami has kind of soiled, ruined. Metal Gear with Metal Gear Survive, Silent Hill with the pachinko stuff. But at the end of the day, this is all just conjecture. I think the Silent Hill stuff conveyed by Rely on Horror here is something I can believe, where, PlayStation, Konami, and maybe even Kojima are kind of in talks to work something out in order to revive Silent Hills or some kind of Silent Hill game Kojima would helm. I find it believable that PlayStation would back a Silent Hill series reboot involving Keiichiro Toyama and Akira Yamaoka and Masahiro Ito, and the fact that so many different sources are saying that this is happening gives me confidence in this, but we haven't heard any rumblings about a Metal Gear resurgence or a Castlevania resurgence. Not going to put too much credence into this because as much as I want this to be true, it seems too good to be true, and there's just too little information right now. There's just too little rumblings. It's interesting that we're hearing so much about the Silent Hill stuff, but nothing about a Metal Gear licensing thing or a Castlevania licensing thing on Sony's part, though maybe Sony's just doing a really good job at keeping that stuff secret. But if by some miracle this does end up happening, then holy crap, that's gonna make headlines. That's certainly gonna raise a lot of attention to PlayStation 5. So yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about these latest rumors surrounding Sony allegedly wanting to acquire Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and Castlevania. A lot of it sounds pretty insane. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are. Do you think that this was at some point in the tables and maybe plans changed? Or do you think that this is just entirely false rumors? Or do you think that maybe this will eventually end up happening where Sony one day might announce, by the way, guys, we've bought Silent Hill, Metal Gear, and Castlevania. Man, how crazy would that be? Just let me know in the comments below what your take is, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.